If anyone is still looking for a seat, there is a vacant spot at the front table. And you won't even have to speak. You can just sit at the table and have your lunch. I'm going to let you sit for right now until we have our invocation. But I just want to say welcome to all Rotarians and I think many guests today. I was a little disappointed to find out that you were all here to see someone else rather than me. But the geology class in the corner here is a little bit loud right now, so calm it down. Okay. Anyway, I'm looking forward to a great meeting today, a great speaker and topic, and I want to thank our greeters, Jim Berg and Jordan Matson. And at this time, I'm going to turn over to Linda Kaminsky for our music presentation.
Okay, so today I have a real treat for you. Our YVC choir had a spring project, and that was to do a video of a virtual concert. So what you're going to hear is our YVC choir and friends, lots of friends. So there are 5 of the best brass players in our community, and Darren Cashmitter, of course, an amazing keyboardist, and 38 singers from Bel Canto, Yakima Camerata Club, Canticus Vocal Ensemble, and the Yakima Symphony Chorus. So here is Sing Community, Sing Peace.
At first, I thought David didn't need an introduction, but David Links for invocation.
Thank you. I was first looking for an invocation that had to do with rocks and geology, and then I kind of got off on tangents, and I ran into something totally unrelated to rocks, but it's one of my favorite writings of Mother Teresa. She wrote, "People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it's between you and your God. It was never between you and them anyway." Thank you.
I guess David surprised me coming up so quickly to the stage here that I forgot to say to Linda Kaminsky, thank you for a wonderful presentation. It was beautiful, certainly a sense of community. Love to see all the performance venues in Yakima, outdoors, indoors, and the talent that you put together, or your director put together. So thank you very much. I want to thank you again. So at this time, I'd like to welcome all guests today, and in doing that, I'd also like you to stand so we can see who our guests are, and hey, Dave Fast, my neighbor, come on, you're a guest, get up. Please stand up and be acknowledged. Yes, thank you for attending. So let's see. Operation Harvest is coming up. There's a flyer on your table. Saturday, October 8th. Please put it on your calendar today. This is one Rotary project where we can have 100% participation. And we need it because it just keeps growing. It does. And more routes, more bags to put out. We found out that by distributing bags, we get more food in return. So we need people to pick up, deliver, staple, whatever. But put it on your calendar and just plan to participate. Easy 100% participation. At this time, let's see, make sure I haven't forgotten something here. Sherry Bissell has a new member to introduce.
She was like, "Do I have to go up there with you?" I said, "Yeah, I wasn't going to tell you that until very last minute." So, President Rick, fellow Rotarians and guests, it is my honor to introduce you to our newest member of Downtown Rotary, Wendy Hensley. Wendy is the Marketing and Communications Director for Comprehensive Healthcare here in Yakima. She recently moved here at the end of May, and since moving, she's spent the majority of her free time being a tourist in her new town. Trolley rides, exploring the museum, attending various concerts and events, checking out the pools, trying different hikes. She's been taking it all in and is loving every minute of our Eastern Sunshine Summer. Although she moved around a lot growing up with stints in Michigan, West Virginia, Maryland, Oklahoma, and the west side of Washington and Oregon, she spent her high school years at Sunnyside Christian School in the Valley. Before continuing to college at WSU in Pullman. This is where we all say in unison, "Go Cougs." Nice. Very nice. She fell in love with the east side of the Washington Mountains during that time, but her internship and then subsequently her career path and a family kept her on the rainy side of the state longer than she had hoped. Recently, when life threw an opportunity for change her way, she used it as a reason to explore the east side again and found comprehensive health care was hiring. With her passion for helping people and 20-plus years of marketing experience, the director role was a perfect fit for her next career move, and thus she was back on the side of the state, the right side of the state, I'll just add, that she was made to live in. Wendy has a wonderful, albeit more than a smidgen independent, 7-year-old son named Colton that she loves dearly. He tags along on the adventures most willingly, but sometimes unwillingly too, which makes him a perfectly normal 7-year-old boy. He will likely make an appearance at some Rotary functions now and then. If you see him, his nickname is Booger. But we got to keep that on the DL. That's just between us. Don't tell him where you heard that. Wendy has 3 dogs and 3 horses. 2 of her horses are BLM Mustangs that she gentled, trained, and now rides and competes on when she can. So BLM, I had to ask her what that was because I didn't. So these are Bureau of Land Management wild Mustangs, people. Wild Mustangs. 2 of her horses, Valioso and Addie, had no human contact when she got them. They were completely wild. So that's just amazing to me. Anyway, she loves to show the diversity of Mustang horses when she shows, but more than that, she loves the connection and the partnership that she's built with them. She competes in ranch horse events, ranch roping, trail competitions, but she's also competed in sorting and penning events in the past. And just in case any of you are wondering, I asked her if she knew about our Pegasus organization here in Yakima, and she does. Her 3 dogs are great too. Well, one is great, River. He's a gentle 100-pound Doberman German Shepherd mix. He's very friendly, and he's very well trained. He's often in the mix of the adventures with Wendy and Colton, taking the 3 of them. With the 3 of them, they have a great time gallivanting around together. The other 2 dogs, on the other hand, well, they are Shih Tzu Maltese mixes, and she generally leaves them at home. They can be a bit on the feisty side. So, but they do round out her family, and she's thankful for all the souls that she's blessed to love. In her free time, Wendy enjoys hiking, camping, biking, walking, playing at the park, exploring, riding horses, trying new restaurants, taking in the latest movie, or simply taking in the sights of a new area. She's passionate about giving back in all ways. She loves to build and be part of community. She's very excited to join the good work happening here at Rotary. She will be an asset to this club. There's no doubt in my mind. Please join me in welcoming our newest member, Wendy Hensley.
Are you ready? Well, by becoming a member, Wendy, you receive a gift pack of items. First of all, you have a red badge. I'll try to give this to you without dropping. And through a process that you'll find out about, you will move up to a blue badge. You'll learn a lot about Rotary in the meantime. Here is a Rotary roster of all of your fellow members, a plaque to put on your wall, any wall that you choose. And I know this has been said year after year, the coveted Rotary Service Above Self license plate holder.
Most honored.
Most honored. All right. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, next on the agenda, Rotary Picnic. 1 week from today, September 1st, Franklin Park. Starts at 5. If you're there for the picnic, if you want to play some pickleball, there's an opportunity to do that. I think that's going to start around 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock? 4 o'clock, excuse me, 4 to 6, yes. And on your tables, if you haven't signed up yet, please sign up today. Tell us what you want to do, how many are going to attend. There's going to be some food provided by Fiesta Foods and some activities for kids. It should be a fun time. Weather's only going to be maybe low 90s, but always a fun time. More people attend, the more fun it is. So sign up so that we have an accurate count. Thank you. At this time, we're going to do something that's maybe a little unusual. Just started doing it a few times this year. It's called the Rotary's 1-minute speed interview. So for guests who haven't been here before, you are at a table, and at that table you are going to determine who the scribe is, who's going to be writing some things down. Because today we're going to find out at our tables who took a geology class. And also maybe who threw an andesite rock through a window. So use your imagination, find your scribe. You have 1 minute to find out that person or persons who took a geology class or broke a window with an andesite rock, and report back in 1 minute. "20 seconds. It's a long minute. All right, time's up. We have 2 ladies in the room with microphones, and I'm going to let them select a table to interview. So starting with Carolyn.
So we have here Jadine Corcoran, who admits to having taken a geology course, but also admits to not remembering anything about it. But her now deceased beloved father-in-law, Doug Corcoran, taught her a lot about rocks over the years. And nobody here broke a window with a rock, so.
But Connie came close.
Connie came close.
All right, Lorna, you have a table selected?
So at our table, Jerry Ketchum took a geology course at Berkeley during her undergraduate degree. She was studying forestry. Her favorite thing about the class was learning about platonics. Tectonic plates, sorry. I'm also a stand-up comedian. Jerry was the executive director at the Arboretum, but she is now retired and she serves on the tree board for the city.
All right, and if you could also introduce yourself as the speaker or the scribe for the table.
My name is Erica Rudder. Thank you all.
Thank you, Erica. All right, let's go with another. Oh, we have a table.
Well, I took geology at Central, And I was so strong in science that I took it pass-fail and got an A. Felix, no, I guess not. Now, we have Jake here. Jake Hambley took the class from a professor at Central, and we'll see if he can remember him.
Ooh, better have him stand up.
All right, and Monica took it at, and Jake took it in just a few years ago, 1999. Monica at our table took it at YVC in 2015, and she passed too. So that's our table.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Scott. One more, Lorna. And who is our speaker?
Hi, my name is Sherry Lou Creason.
I knew that.
And I'm introducing Rick McDermott. He took a class at WSU. No, CWU, I'm sorry, CWU, excuse me. And his favorite things were learning about basalt rocks and sedimentary rocks. And he had a few outings around the Yakima River Canyon, which he really enjoyed. And Andesite has the longest flow here in Yakima of anywhere. Andesite, thank you. And we have the thickest layer of basalt in actually the world.
Well, that makes me, I should have asked our speaker to have grades prepared for the responses from the table. I think we have one more opportunity. If there is a volunteer. Oh, there looks like Bush Preacher's got something.
My good friend Herb, who most of you know, Schmidt, threw a rock through a window when he was a boy.
But was it andesite? All right. Well, thank you very much for participating. Hope we learned a little something, very little about geology. That comes next, I think. Sergeant of Arms, Bob Romero.
We're going to do a little transition from throwing rocks to baseballs a little bit. For those of you who follow the Seattle Mariners, are actually in contention for a wild card playoff spot if you haven't been following baseball. And so I thought one of the things we should do today is talk a little bit about your Seattle Mariners, because they are trying to break a streak. They currently have the longest streak in major professional sports for not making the playoffs. What was the last year that the Mariners made the playoffs? And just answer this yourself. If you don't know the answer, pay $1. Answer was 2001. 2001, the last time that the Mariners made the playoffs. So it's been a little while. It'd be great if they can do it this year and hang on to wild card spot. Now, these are teams that in Knicks terms, are more than a stone's throw from the top of the standings normally, and by midseason hit rock bottom. But the Pittsburgh Pirates, Detroit Lions, and Sacramento Kings typically suck, and in technical terms. And so, which of those teams has had the longest run since it last made the playoffs? Pittsburgh, Detroit, or Sacramento? It's actually Sacramento. You know, everybody, see, Detroit was a great answer, and that's what a lot of people thought, but it was actually Sacramento. So, when the Mariners last made the playoffs in 2001, what was the cost of a first-class postage stamp within 3 cents? Okay? In 2001, what were we paying for a stamp? Within 3 cents, and if you miss this, pay $1. Answer, 34 cents. So if you're between 31 and 37, you're golden, otherwise pay $1. And what was the average price for a gallon of gas in August of 2001? And you need to be within 10 cents on this one, okay? You have a 10-cent range on this one, and the answer is $1.46 a gallon. Remember that? Wasn't that wonderful times? Not only do you have higher gas prices, it just also costs you another $1, so that's double jeopardy. When the Mariners last made the playoffs, who was the mayor of Seattle? Was it Norm Rice, Greg Nichols, Paul Schell, Charles Royer, Mike McGann or Jack Sikma? The answer actually is C. It was Paul Schell, who not many people remember his short tenure as mayor of Seattle. So when the Mariners last made the playoffs, who was the mayor of Yakima? Was it Pat Byrne, John Puccinelli, Paul George, Mary Place, Lynn Buchanan, or ironically, was former Mariner Dave Edler the mayor when the Mariners made the playoffs, or was it President Rick's distant cousin Ernie Fairbrook? The correct answer is D. Mary Place was the mayor when the Mariners made the playoffs. So Ichiro is being installed in the Mariner Hall of Fame this weekend, and so it's big Hall of Fame doings in Seattle for Ichiro. He was a rookie in 2001 when the Mariners last made the playoffs, winning both Rookie of the Year MVP, hit .350, led the league with led baseball with 242 hits, 56 stolen bases. What Major League Baseball record did the team match that season in 2001? What record did the Mariners match? Was it all-time single attendance, most wins in a season, most Japanese-born players on a Major League Baseball roster, or fewest arrests in a single season? The answer is most wins in a season, number 2. They matched 116 wins. Chicago previously set that mark. So only 2 teams have done that. Ichiro hit .350 that year. 3 other Mariners also hit over .300 for the season. Who were they? If you can name 2 of them, you pay no fine. Otherwise, you can pay $1. The answers are Edgar Martinez, Brett Boone, and John Olerud. And so there you are. Enjoy a Mariner weekend. Hopefully they'll make a playoff push and look a whole lot better than the Sacramento Kings. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Bob. That was fun, and learned a few things. But I was wondering about the Rotary fine, the Rotary dollar fine. What was the Rotary fine in 2001? $1. One place where inflation has not hit. Rotary fines. Okay. Well, today we've been having a lot of fun. I think talking about geology and throwing rocks at each other, and the music was rocking out as well, and it makes me want to say rock 'em baby. So with that, I'm going to say, Bruce Bacon, you are going to introduce our speaker today.
President Rick and Rotarians and guests, it's with great pleasure that I introduce today's speaker, Nick Zentner. He's been teaching geology at Central Washington University since 1992. His Geology 101 classes are not only open to all Central students, but also to the townspeople for free. During the pandemic, he live-streamed geology presentations to around 1,000 people daily. In 2015, Nick received the prestigious James Shea Award, which recognizes exceptional delivery of earth science to the general public. In 2021, his PBS Geology show, Nick on the Rocks, won 2 Emmy Awards. In addition to his teaching and his crowd favorite presentations to our Yakima Rotary Club, many among you have experienced his entertaining and highly informative hikes. I see a group of those hikers down there. Please welcome Nick Zentner.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I really mean that. I'm not just saying that. This is a huge relief that I'm here, and I need to explain that. And I also need to give you a little quick preamble. This is not a geology talk. I love all the puns and the other themes run in, and I do teach geology, but this is more about what I was doing since early 2020 as opposed to a geology program, and that's very different for me. I usually like to just focus on the geology and not me, but it's the opposite today, and I hope you'll see why in just a second. So look at this document carefully, if you would. It's maybe similar to the program that you have, but notice the date, Thursday, March 5th, 2020. So I was scheduled to come here and be with you that first week of March, and you did have that meeting. This is before everything shut down, but I canceled the afternoon before. So I canceled on March 4th, and I've felt terrible about it ever since. So it feels great to finally be here and follow through on what I promised to do. So the story is, I found this email. I suppose you can't read it, but I was dealing with, corresponding with Mary Beth. Mary Beth, are you here? Mary Beth, so thank you for your correspondence with me that first week. I couldn't get out of bed that first week of March. And I let you know, Mary Beth, I think Sunday of that week, and then Tuesday, and then the day before I was supposed to be here, and this is the email where I finally said, I got to cancel. I still can't get out of bed. I don't know what I have, but I cannot get out of bed. And to this day, I don't really know what I had. And I'm happy to be with you all and survive, but I think Mary Beth scrambled to get Haley Van Lith, a high school basketball player from Kashmir, to speak with you that day. So I'm finally here 2.5 years late. But that talk was going to be about the PBS television channel and promoting Central and that sort of stuff and all this swag, but it didn't happen. Okay, so the next week in March I got better, thankfully, and just as I was getting better, the world was starting to shut down, and my calendar started to empty, and I was doing a lot of public speaking back then. It seems like, 30 decades ago, but it was just a couple years ago. But my calendar started to empty, and I started to panic. Maybe you remember that feeling, like all these things that you had planned, whether it was a trip or something else. I really enjoyed public speaking, and the whole rest of the spring was just totally cleared because of everything shutting down. And I was whining about it at my home with my wife. Our kids are grown and out of the house, and she finally said, look, whether you want to admit it or not, you need an audience, and I don't want to be your audience. So you better figure this out. You got to figure out how to find an audience. And I'm like, we're not supposed to leave. I'm in the backyard. She's like, figure it out. You'll figure it out. And so this is the actual moment when I was sitting in my backyard on March 16th with this phone. I had just gotten the phone. I didn't know how to even turn it on, basically. And I started poking around, and I hit YouTube app. And then in the YouTube app, I saw a thing that said live. I didn't even really know what that meant, but I hit it. And this is me. That's the look on my face, like the text was, you're live, and I'm like, what? And that's the cat over my shoulder, and we're just looking at this screen. And within about 10 seconds, people started showing up on my phone. And they weren't faces, and they weren't voices. It was just like texts coming in, like, hi, hello from Walla Walla, and wow, this is a surprise. And I'm like, what am I doing? And they say, you're live streaming right now. I'm looking forward to learning about geology. I'm like, I'm just here with the cat. I don't even know what I'm doing. And so I had a million questions for these people that were showing up. There was 10 people, and then 20 and 25. This is like, 8:30 at night in March. And they said, we are subscribers to your YouTube channel, and we got notified that you started live streaming. And I'm like, I have a YouTube channel? I didn't even know I had a YouTube channel. So that's how much I knew about live streaming on YouTube. And the next day, I set up the chalkboard in the backyard and used this as a phone, and I just started making programs for whoever was out there. So I found my audience, remarkably, without really knowing that I could do it. So it was just my phone, and that's what I want to talk about today. How I started with that, with just maybe 100 people watching live from my backyard, and I was imagining just talking to people in Washington who happened to be subscribers. I think there were about 500 subscribers at the time with YouTube. And I got hooked. I got totally into this. I did 5 live streams every week when everything was locked down from my backyard. There were 75 of them in total. And this audience grew to thousands of people from around the world, not just in Washington. So there's a lot to kind of think about here about what I stumbled into and what I learned. So yes, there's a little bit of geology, but it's mostly just how to use this technology and how to have such an immediate connection with people in a long, distant places. And of course it was an unusual situation. Everybody's at home. Like, I was doing it for me, just to have something on my schedule, but the viewers, the live chat people, also had something to put on their schedule. So a little backstory very quickly on me. This is what my classroom looked like for many years at Central in Lind Hall, just a slide projector and an overhead projector. There were no computers back in the early 90s for teaching. Some of you know that building. Some of you are Central graduates. Lind Hall on 8th Avenue, now called University Way. My office was right next to the bathroom, so everybody would stop in and visit, and people from the public would come in and they would visit. And so I started to learn back 30 years ago that there was an audience for this. People had questions about geology, but of course, this is before the internet, let alone YouTube. And I was doing geology teaching in the field, that sort of thing, so a combination of classroom. So in other words, I was practicing how to deliver geology to pretty much anybody, not only my paying customers, my students, like over here, but people who would want to come from the public. So I started experimenting. This is 15 years ago now. Central had a local cable television channel, KCTS. Excuse me, that came later. KCWU. So it was just broadcasted to Kittitas Valley. So I'm just making programs and interviewing geologists, hoping that somebody in Badger Pocket tunes in after they make hay or something. And that spun into some public field trips where people would show up on Sundays and it would take people out. So that audience was there. I didn't create the audience. There was an untapped, hungry audience. Many of you in this room, not all I realize, but many of you have had an interest in geology, whether it's just because you hunt, you fish, you bike, whatever. You know these places. And so I was just inspired by all these people that were interested in this sort of thing. That got into downtown lectures in Ellensburg. And then somebody said, why don't you film them and put them on YouTube? This is 10 years ago. I didn't know what YouTube was, but I filmed those. And some of those downtown lectures are now have been watched 1 million times, 1.5 million times. And it's not just people here in Washington. This is all before you guys, right? This is all before the pandemic. This is just kind of experimenting with different ways to communicate with different age levels. There was a friend, Tom Foster, who we made programs, videos, short videos on YouTube. So I had this job that gave me this freedom to try these different things. And using Tom's photos with that series, Palouse River Canyon, here's the geology content, by the way. Ice Age floods erratic outside of Pasco, right up by the interchange, Drumheller Channel, columns. So yes, we have geology in spades, but up until recently, I thought it was just people in the Northwest who would want to hear about it. This experiment with YouTube Live helped me realize it's not just a local story. So I took some of my old type of approaches with chalkboards and things, and I brought them out to the field and making videos with a chalkboard in the field. It's all cutesy, maybe over the top, but it seemed to work for lots of different kinds of people, and I was energized by all of that. Doing impromptu talks at Dry Falls, and then it kind of culminated, I guess, with the PBS channel that Bruce mentioned, the PBS program. Chris Smart and Linda Schockler and Premier Jackson at Central were making those programs with me. Okay, so let's get, PBS, we got it. There is a place, if you're interested, there is one website where all of this stuff exists, and it's just my website. It's nickzentner.com. I know it seems like I'm deeply in love with myself right now. Maybe I am, but I'm just, if you want to follow through on this, that's the place to go with all this stuff, including this backyard stuff. So we're back to this puzzled person, this unflattering look, the marshmallow-shaped head with about 3 chins, and a cat over my shoulder. But I just went for it. It was a committee of one, you know. I'm a lonely guy out in the backyard, and I'm like, well, I know the content. I know the geology content. I don't have to prepare. It's all, I've been making these programs. The challenge was the technology. So the first show, I'm too far from the house, so the thing's all grainy because I'm too far from the Spectrum modem inside of the house. Second show, I bring everything inside. Now I'm close to the modem, but the lighting's crap. Then the third show. So every show, I'm trying different things, and I'm feeding off of the comments. So the folks who are in the live chat, they come back night after night, and they say, why don't you try a microphone? Why don't you move the... And I was pretty much every suggestion I would take, you know. It's like, okay, what do I need to buy for that? So, and then people are sending gifts, because I insist, you know, there's no money here. This is just, you know, this is a pure relationship we have. So they're, you know, whether they're neighbors or whether they're, you know, a box arrived from Louisiana or whatever, and I'm using the gifts for props, you know, as I'm teaching. So it was energizing, I got to say. But in addition to the geology, like a hot air popper showing cinder cone volcanoes, or in addition to the new kind of spin on teaching geology, I was doing some things I had never done before. I was saying hi to people in 15 minutes beforehand. I was doing a live question and answer with these viewers from around the world. I was offering a toast to everybody at the end. I was saying things like, I love you. Like, you know, the first time I did it, I was kind of like sarcastic, but my wife's like, if you're going to say that, you got to mean it, you know? And she was also talking about the live crowd, yeah. But it was a weird time. We all remember, I think we all remember, did it even happen? Is that kind of a weird thing? We all went through that, and I'm not even sure it happened now, but these programs are still there, so there's proof that it happened. And the community and the inclusivity of it and the pureness of it became far more important, I think, than the geology content, which was a huge lesson for me. Let me just do a couple more and we're done. Moving on. So this is the setup I had, literally using the step ladder in the back and strapping this phone on top of it and running up to school. I wasn't supposed to leave the house by going to school in the middle of the night and grab some rocks and bring them back. And I had a cozy fort, I called it, so I'm holding a laptop up to the camera, and I've got, the ladder's got a black curtain around so we can have a little theater time together. All of this stuff became kind of like running jokes and kind of gags, you know, the whole thing, but it's all we're all doing this together. So this is the first time I've talked about all this publicly, because when I see somebody at the hardware store, they'll go, well, you know, how come you stopped doing all that geology stuff? Like, I don't see you on TV anymore, and you don't do the lectures downtown. I'm like, well, I think you know why, but they assume I've stopped. And occasionally I'll try to explain like all this stuff in the backyard, and they're just confused. I can just see the look on their eyes. Like, I don't even know what YouTube is. What are you talking about? So I just haven't talked about it to anybody, and this is my first time really trying to kind of share this weird experiment. And then I'm, you know, on the road and trying to involve other people and live streaming using my Verizon coverage. And okay, you get the idea. The last part of the story is I'm still talking about your geology. I'm talking about Rimrock Lake. Somebody in the Netherlands is glued listening about Rimrock Lake, or the Titan andesite, the longest lava flow in the world. And then somebody's typing in bullshit, you know, well, we gotta. I can't say that stuff anymore. Like, people from the world are like in there, and they're like, ours is, you know. So I'm still stunned that so many people from so many age groups. And yeah, there's kids being homeschooled at the same time. So we got families watching, and the parents are off the hook. They got the teacher. I'm teaching this stuff that people outside of Kittitas Valley probably don't care that much about. Ellensburg blue agates or the Liberty Gold up. So that's the main message, that it's the tone and it's the delivery and it's the intimacy that I think is just in science in general, maybe in all subjects, I don't know. people are going to respond to you and how you deliver it, I think, way more than the nuts and bolts of what you're trying to deliver. And if you're trained as a scientist, you view it the opposite way. So, I mean, these numbers are staggering. I still don't believe, I'm not saying there were 73,000 all watching live, but there were typically about 1,500 that would watch live with me, and then the program would stay on the channel and people would watch after the fact. But, I used to be proud of having 150 people in a room, for a lecture, and now that would be a huge disappointment if there were just 150 people that showed up. So T-shirts were made, the whole thing, you get it. This is a map that somebody made. There's a Facebook page, devoted to all this stuff. Somebody took every location that people would type in, because on each live stream I would ask where are people viewing from. So somebody took the time to plot every town that people were watching from, and you're like, wow, okay, people in Florida are watching? Yeah, but all those cities in Europe, or villages for all I know, out in the middle of nowhere. As long as they have internet, they can join, Australia, New Zealand. And they're learning about our geology, and they're all tuning into my backyard. My last couple of comments are, once I stopped with those 75 live streams, I had built up to, I think it was about 35,000 that had subscribed to this YouTube channel, and so it would have been crazy just to stop. I stopped the live stream. I was kind of out of ideas, but I had that audience, and so I started making videos in the field, not live, but just recording them and then uploading them to YouTube. And that has continued. I go interview geologists in their backyards during the pandemic. And then I started live streaming again in my backyard using advanced geology, senior level geology, and graduate level geology, figuring that most would leave. They didn't leave. And now geologists are watching this thing. So I've broken not only into a new world with numbers of viewers, but people in my field who are now inspired to be part of it. And props and fake sponsors and all those corny things continued as well. So it's elements of these different things kind of melding together. Let me for the fourth time say, as I wrap up, I've got more slides than I thought I had. I didn't really ask anybody at Central, but I started live streaming my classes as well. So the whole Geology 101 is kind of there for free. And the only thing I asked the viewers was don't email an administrator and say thank you. You're just a fly on the wall. Nobody needs to know. And so this was winter of 2022. There's 20 kids with masks spread out in this huge auditorium, and there's like 1,200 watching live through this. It was the most bizarre thing ever. But nobody turned me in, so then I did Geology 351, and the last slide is this past winter, I've developed to the point where I have a split screen and I have a live geologist from another part of the world and the live chat people as well. So it's now a community with the viewers, and they have a chance to ask the experts, and I'm learning from the expert. And this is Basil from Wisconsin, and this is Karin from France. And you can get multiple geologists on the screen at the same time. And so I'm just continuing to run on this. I don't know if I'll ever go back to public talks. I'm here mainly because I feel like I owe this group, but otherwise I don't know. I'm getting so much out of this that I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do next. But most recently I've been up in the mountains making programs with the geologists that I had on those split screens. So it's a lesson about geology, but it's also a lesson about how many people around the world want to know about anything, really, but in my case, geology from Central Washington. Thank you very much.
Time for questions?
If you've had enough, I understand. Yes, sir. Clyde Friend up there on top of Terrace Heights has some standing petrified logs entombed in basalt. Before the pandemic, I went up to visit Clyde with Jim Landon, who was kind of the middleman, and didn't get much further with Clyde than just getting a chance to see those. So he wasn't that keen on participating with a wider audience. So I'd love to, but he doesn't. The property owner doesn't seem too interested. The question is about petrified logs and why some of them are vertical. It looks like they're in growth position. It's still a bit of a mystery, I have to say. Some of the logs over the same horizon of logs and the old forest is over at Ginkgo by Vantage, and there are some vertical logs there as well. It seems like it's just a coincidence they're vertical, but there's a lot of them that are vertical. There's no roots. They're totally cut off at the base, so we don't have any. So there's no evidence that lava is entombing these logs as the logs are standing living. But why so many of them are vertical is very difficult to explain. More? Yes. I'm sorry, somebody operating? Yeah.
One quick question. I'm just wondering, are you live streaming this today?
I am not live streaming this. This fine young man is recording this, it sounds like. Are you live streaming this? Oh, Facebook Live right now. So no, I'm not live streaming this, but my newest gimmick is I'm figuring out how to do slideshows at Central in my auditorium and having it live stream as well. And you're like, didn't you say you were just doing that? I wasn't using slides, I was using those chalkboards. So my next thing is to practice with that format. And I might do this talk again with that live stream there. Yeah, thank you. A couple more? Sure.
I'm just curious, at what point in your life did you find your passion for this? Were you a rock collector as a young kid, or was it later in your teen years? When did the passion come about?
Thanks for the question. I had no interest in geology all through my life, including college. I was looking for a major, and I was at the University of Wisconsin. I was a theater major, a music major, a history major, a geography major. And I finally ran out of money. And so I went to work in Glacier Park in Montana for a summer, and I pumped gas at Lake McDonald Lodge, and my roommate was a geology major back in Minnesota. So we went on some hikes, and he just pointed out a couple things. And that's when I got interested in geology, but it's not really till I moved west and lived in the mountains and started doing my own projects that it became a passion, as you say. Yeah, maybe that's another thing I would say, that when I'm interviewing a lot of these geologists and we're all in these beautiful places, I'm sorry to say it this way, but there's a lot of regret. People in the live chat are like openly saying, I screwed up. I should have followed my interests. And you guys are like, because it is kind of our hobbies, and it's kind of our jobs. So that's been another, I didn't realize how many people, or maybe they're just saying it, I don't know, but I think many of them are meaning it, that they wish they would have pursued something like that and they chose not to for whatever reason. Yes?
Yeah, I'm just curious, you moved to the West, geology is your thing. What is the, for lack of a better term, coolest thing about the West geology in your opinion?
The coolest thing, well, I can just use Washington. I think we all know this is a special place, and we all know there's a lot of diversity in our landscapes, just when you guys drive to Seattle or vice versa or whatever. But just the bedrock itself in the North Cascades, which has been my current interest, it's just incredibly complicated, and some can stay away from that and just go, it's too complicated for me, but I just find it incredibly fascinating. So I choose not to pick one spot and say that's the best or whatever, or the biggest, longest lava flow or whatever, but it's just this incredible diversity, and it's almost like I'm working for the Chamber of Commerce for Ellensburg or for Central Washington. These viewers just cannot believe that each video that I'm doing from the field is all within, it's almost a running joke. I say, well, I'm 60 minutes from Ellensburg. They're like, that can't be. You were just out in the desert, and now you're up at Mount Stewart, and then you're in a river canyon, and then you're over at the I'm like, I'm not kidding. It's all, so there's so much here, and I think most of us know that, and that's why we're here. Yes?
Have you had an opportunity, or can you monetize this?
It's a common question. And early on, especially when everything was locked down, people were persistent. They're like, I owe you something for this. Please, my checkbook is open. Where do I send the money? And I'm just afraid of all that stuff. I mean, my job is to be teaching geology, but also to do outreach. So I didn't want a conflict of interest that way. Yes, you can hit a button on YouTube and monetize, and you can have ads, and you can have super chat, and of course all the viewers had all these suggestions on what I should, Patreon and all these things. I'm just afraid of it to this point. But it's huge, and I know that, I don't know, if I lose my job or the economy goes crazy south, I've had a bunch of families from Europe and Australia flying here and wanting to see some of these places. And so I could easily set up a little shop, I guess, and say, come on in, buy the t-shirt and everything. But a better answer is, I think part of the appeal was I was never asking for them to thumbs up and share and do that. It was all word of mouth and it was all genuine. I know it sounds hokey, and maybe most of you are business oriented and you're like, boy, you are an idiot. You're totally, and I probably am an idiot, but I'm afraid of that to this point. At some point I might, after I retire from Central or something, I might try.
We have one more question.
Sure.
I just had a question if you have thought about taking shorter clips and putting them on TikTok or Instagram to try to like inspire the younger generation to maybe get involved or get out there and see this kind of stuff, that maybe they, you know, can take a break from dancing videos.
Yes. Thank you for the question. I think you all heard it. When I was working with Tom Foster, by the way, he didn't make it through that first week of March. We had the same thing, whatever it was. So I'm still torn up about that. But when we were making videos together, Tom said, we need to make videos to satisfy this group, or to this. I've done my research and we need to make sure it's short. And in other words, we need to tailor what we're doing for a particular audience. And I don't think he ever was satisfied, because he didn't get the numbers that he wanted, the view numbers or whatever. And I was the one that finally said, can't we just do it for us? Can't we just please ourselves? And so I think that's my answer. I've avoided TikTok and other things to target young people. They'll find my stuff if they're interested. But yeah, I listen to the viewers, but I'm not chasing one particular demographic, because they're all over the place geographically as well as demographically. I don't even look at the analytics. All that stuff's available. When they stop watching, when they click off. The 42-year-old women don't like that. You know, it's like, I purposely don't look at it. Thanks very much, everybody.
So how many here before today watched a Nick Zentner online presentation or took a class? That's a large following right there. So I just want to thank you, Nick, for feeling guilty and coming back and presenting to us today. Really fabulous. I have to share that I did something for the first time. You did something the first time in 2020 when you went on video. And I did that this week, and I don't know if any of you saw it. It was a big risk. Never done it before. How many even saw it? How many would like to see another or never again? Wait, no, it's only one. Oh, anyway, thank you. Let's see. Next, I do want you to know, Nick, that we give our speakers, on behalf of our speakers, a donation to Rotary's Polio Plus campaign. And that works throughout the world, and it's becoming a little bit more of an issue even in our country now, but thank you. Next week is the Rotary Picnic. It's also National No Rhyme or Reason Day. So there is no rhyme or reason for not attending the picnic, and you can do that by signing up yet at your table. Next program, Susan Walker and Monica Miller, Women Painters of Washington, also here at the Convention Center, followed by Sister Kathleen Ross and Dr. Andrew Sund, Heritage University, 40 years of creating higher education opportunities in the Yakima Valley, also here at the Yakima Convention Center. There is an opportunity to meet with Sonia Rodriguez. Maybe, where is Sonia? She's right over here. After the meeting, if you have an interest in planning the Hispanic Heritage Month activities, so ask that you meet with her after the meeting today to share any ideas that you have. So, with no further ado, what a great meeting, what a great speaker, great crowd. Have a great day. We're adjourned.